Now, welcome back. Now, the Nala Feminist Collective, Nalafem, in partnership with the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, will be hosting the upcoming third Nalafem Summit scheduled to take place on the 1st of July 2024 in Windhoek, Namibia, under the theme Women's Right to Lead. Now, the Nalafem Summit has emerged as a pivotal platform for Africa's women leaders from politics and activism to convene, share best practices, and collaborative efforts between the public and civil society. Now, the summit aims to foster, enable, and to mobilize transformative feminist leaders across Africa. Aya Shebi, the president and founder of the Nala Feminist Collective, joins me in studio to share more light on the upcoming summit and to take us through the mandate. Good morning, ma'am, and welcome to GMN.
Thank you.
How are you finding Namibia?
Namibia is fantastic. Beautiful weather. I went to the coast.
Okay.
It's incredible.
I take it this is your second time in Namibia.
Third.
Third time.
Yeah, it's like a second home.
Okay. Maybe take us through the mandate of Nalafem. What is it all about?
I'd like to define Nalafem as an army of women, African women, who are occupying leadership positions they deserve across the continent. We are a collective of politicians, the youngest ministers, parliamentarians, diplomats, the likes of Honorable Emma Theophilus, Botswana's Bogolo Kinawando, Rose Washuka, Chief of Staff of Chief Justice, Judiciary of Kenya. So these are women who are trailblazers in leadership position across public sector, together with the most radical feminist activists. So really change makers within the system, change makers outside the system, trying to move Africa's agenda forward.
For the young lady that's from Namibia that might be watching, how does Nalafem, link with probably what you're trying to achieve on an African scale, but now break it down to us how a Namibian young lady that might be watching now tends to benefit?
Yes, we actually had a young feminist baraza yesterday hosted by the National Youth Council, and we spoke to a lot of young Namibians who really showed interest in how can we get into leadership spaces, and we were talking about from the individual, being a leader and getting the opportunities, getting the access, the skills that you need. So we provide fellowships, we provide trainings. We have Nala Academy, where a lot of young women across the African continent and Namibians can participate in. But I think most importantly, a lot of organizations provide these type of programs. Most importantly is providing a platform of honest, safe conversations among young women who face the same challenges from their families, from their communities, small leadership positions they can have as student leaders, to big roles as ministers. And I think that is what Nala can provide as we see as a gap between the grassroots level and the government, the policy and the implementation. But also the generational. We're pretty much multi-generational, and we believe in the wisdom of generations before us. We believe that we stand on their shoulders, but we also have our own mission. We have our own challenges as a generation. So that collaboration among generations is something we also offer. And we heard yesterday from a lot of young feminists that they want to communicate with other generations and they want the support of other generations. So we try to facilitate those platforms and provide concrete support for them, whether it's resource mobilization, access to platforms, opportunities. So young Namibians, you are welcome to join Nalafem family.
Okay, let's talk about the summit that's taking place on the 1st of July 2024.
So this is our third summit. Our first was 2022 in Abuja, Nigeria. We did it with the government as well. Second was in Nairobi. We did it with judiciary. And we usually choose the destination as a country that has an opportunity to show the world a different type of leadership. In Nigeria, it was also 6 months to the elections, and our rallying point was to vote as the youngest, population. In Nairobi, there was the first female Chief Justice to take that role, so we wanted to rally around her vision to do sexual, gender-based violence courts. And this year, Namibia is an obvious destination. Namibia having 50-50 parity. Namibia's commitment to Maputo Protocol at the African Union. Namibia having a women peace center. And Namibia having a very good potential to have first female president. So for us, this is a great opportunity as a Pan-African Collective to come to Namibia as a destination of democracy, as a destination of gender equity, to rally around, that female leadership. And to really provide hope for the continent. And
so all the boxes are ticked off for Namibia?
It is, yes. And I think, when I come to Namibia, maybe Namibians underestimate that. You guys are leading the way in gender equity. If you look at 55 member states on the continent, you cannot say as many countries have reached gender parity. You can really count how many female candidates to the presidency even to become president. So I think for us, we want to amplify, the success of Namibia and use this opportunity to show Namibia as a role model on the continent and how we can all rally around female leadership.
Okay. Now the theme that you have chosen for this third summit, women's right to lead, expand on that and possibly on a local context, how it can relate to a young lady.
Yeah, no, women's rights to lead, because people assume, sometimes people ask me, what's the utopia that I have? And it's a kingdom of women. But people think that didn't exist before. I mean, before colonization, we had women queens and warriors and governors. So it's not a utopia, actually it existed, and women did pretty well. In Namibia and across the African continent. So why now, when a woman runs for office, we doubt her capacity? Why, when a woman runs for office, we focus on what she's wearing and how she's looking, instead of her vision, her project, for leadership? And that's for us women's right to lead, that women are capable to lead. And it's nothing to prove to society. When most people say, is the country ready for a woman to lead? Actually, women are ready to lead. So we want to change that narrative, because there is a stigma. When a woman stands up, to lead, there is either this pressure to lead as a man and masculinize and, have the traits of a man in order to navigate the system, which no, you can read with your femininity, you can read with your, women are collaborative, are emotionally intelligent, are empathetic. And that's why you bring women to leadership, because you bring a certain type of leadership that is different from male leadership. But also you bring feminism to it, which means you pave the way for younger women to also be in the space. And we always hope when women, either if they are members of parliament, if they are president, if they are ministers, they're not just there as the first and only female, but they open doors for more women to lead with them.
Let's talk about your engagement that you had with, that you're talking about, that was facilitated by the National Youth Council of Namibia. I mean, were you able to resonate with the feminist movements that you found within Namibia? Absolutely.
I met incredible feminists yesterday. We actually had a really inspiring session, and they were, they face so many challenges in the community. They mentioned teenage pregnancy, they mentioned child marriage, drop out of school. They mentioned a lot of challenges they face on a daily basis, even in political parties, where they're underestimated, the leadership is underestimated. But they also were very, very passionate, very hopeful, very strong about, I am, and I am free. We went also to the Be Free campus, a space for young people to just be without judgment, without stigma. And I think Namibia is making strides, around that area. We also met with the gender ministry. We met the Deputy Minister, Honorable Alexia. We met with APRM. We will continue to meet some government officials today in the Vice President office and the Prime Minister office. So all the stakeholders would be engaged in the summit. And of course, our council member, Honorable Emma Theophilus, is leading the way.
Okay, let's talk about these preparations towards July. What can Namibians expect?
A very horizontal dialogue, usually in conferencing where it's very high level, where you have top leadership. We don't do podium conversations. We don't do a stage and people, audience. We do a fishbowls. It's a circle, and you sit in a room where there are gender-based violence survivors, where there are women from rural areas, where there are grassroots feminists, and you have to be able to challenge the leadership, and the leadership has to accept to be challenged, and that's where dialogue starts. But it's going to be also very vibrant and dynamic, because we give awards, Nalafem awards, and we pay tribute to the leaders who came before us, who paved the way for us to even be, 30, 60 years ago. I was the former envoy of the African Union. I wouldn't be there if commissioners and if there was no female chair of the African Union. And it's the same in many circles of leadership. So we honor them, and then they give awards and grants to young feminist organizations. So we also give resources to these feminist groups. So it's going to be inspiring, challenging, dynamic, horizontal access, a lot of mentoring. We expect a lot of commitment and pledges. We also want to give something back to Namibia, so we plan to support 100 girls. We're working with the Ministry of ICT, who are already giving digital skills to girls, so we're going to select 100 girls to give laptops. So it's our way of giving back and not leaving Namibia with something concrete that can empower women.
Okay. Now, as we begin to wrap up our conversation this morning, let's talk about how Nalafem will address issues of, you did perhaps touch on it a bit, but issues of that's cultural and tradition norms that perpetuate gender inequalities in Namibian communities. I know there are some strides that you have talking about gender equity, gender parity in parliament, but there's still some areas where perhaps we could do better. And how do you assist in that area?
Absolutely. I mean, we were also, this was raised yesterday during the roundtable, and you know, we have to distinguish between us being proud Africans, proud of who we are, proud of our culture, you know, preserving the beautiful traditions that we have, but also get rid of those that harm and that oppress and that marginalize groups over others. And unfortunately, there are a lot of practices that really marginalize girls and not allow them to thrive in their full potential. And it's a cycle, you know, when you go through child marriage, you're more likely to drop out of school. When you drop out of school, you're more likely to depend on a probably much, much older man that you were married to. And when you do that, you're not financially free, and you're not gonna be able to rise for leadership or to even have a chance. And so I think we need to recognize that when we try to prevent these harmful practices or these traditions that we have to get rid of, it's not against culture. It's actually, we love our culture and we want to thrive in our culture, but it is very much intersectional with a lot of the challenges that young women and girls face today. So I have these conversations a lot. It's also generational conversations. We need to allow for different community leaders, for our elders, to have honest conversations with us. This might have been the case 60 years ago, but it's 2024, and women now are out working, having education, and we cannot continue to treat women as second-class citizens or to have women as subjects to their partners. And of course, when we say equality or equity, it's not a fight between men and women. It's actually to nurture the whole of society. And the more you empower women to be in society, the more they can, you know, be the nurturer of homes and generation and households. So let's get rid of what's not working and let's double down on what empowers women.
Well, Aya Shebi, thank you very much for making time to speak to us this morning.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, that was Aya Shebi, who's the president and founder of the Nala Feminist Collective, talking to us about a partnership with the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, where they'll be hosting the upcoming third Nalafem Summit, scheduled to take place on the 1st of July 2024, right here in Namibia's capital, under the theme, Women's Right to Lead. Now, stay tuned. GMN get to return shortly after this break.